Hello, this is my video on really good and evil, but I'm gonna segue into it by talking about wrestling. I've always wanted to do a wrestling video on this channel. I actually had a channel where I talked about wrestling before called Crash Wrestling 666. It was Crash Wrestling, which is the kind of which is a booking philosophy, let's call that, or the strategy, the booking style, which I like, mainly used by Russo, is also used by Paul Heyman. Even Eric Bischoff uses some things from it in his version of the products that he's made, his products. Um, so it's Crash Wrestling, and the guy who really invented it, almost invented it, I guess it was Heyman, is a guy named Vince Russo, and it comes from the concept of trash TV, like Jerry Springer, but it was Crash Wrestling, and I really like Russo's television. And he gave us a lot of cool things like Undertaker versus Kane. If you don't know who Undertaker and Kane are, look that up. If you don't know, forget it, whatever, you don't watch wrestling. But I liked it. I liked the Val Venus, which was a porn star character. They had a 70s street pimp that was for some reason named Godfather. I say that because Godfather was based on the Mafia. This was a pimp. I don't know how they figure maybe he was a Mafia. I don't know. He gave us a vampire character, all kinds of good shit. I really enjoyed it. I loved the Ministry of Darkness, all that stuff. He was with TNA. TNA had him. They fucked it up, and they sucked ever since. They did nothing but lose ratings. They continue to lose ratings. All these idiots say, "Oh, it's Russo, it's Russo, it's Russo. He's too crazy. He's just the product doesn't make sense." And then they get rid of him, and it goes to shit, and nobody watches it. It's done nothing but lose ratings since Russo quit. That's not the point. It's not about Russo. What I'm getting at, he had an ideal that he fucked around with. He never really did it, but he fucked around with it, which is concept of getting rid of the good guys and the bad guys, because that's not realistic, and you don't have that in real life, and people don't relate to that, and it's too childish. It's too childish of a concept. And instead to be on the cutting edge of it, to be productive, to make things a little more interesting, instead to have shades of gray. One guy might be a little bit worse than another, one might be a little bit better, and you cheer, maybe you boo based on that. And that's the kind of wrestling strategy that I want. And you see what I'm getting at in a minute. Why I'm making a video about this? I want to make a wrestling video, and also want to make some philosophical points about society, and I'm doing both in one. So the way I would book wrestling basically is you would have like half the fucking roster would really not be a good guy or a bad guy. Like half the roster wouldn't be a good guy or a bad guy. They'd probably be closer to a good guy, or maybe some be closer to a bad guy. And the people can do what they want, cheer boo. And then you'd have a few really bad guys, and maybe a few really good guys, mainly in the main event. And the thing you would base a bad guy off of, or maybe not a bad guy, but a darker shade of gray, would be negative characteristics. Someone is a little bit cowardly, like Fandango right now is a wrestler who's kind of cowardly. That's his main characteristic. He'll leave a match in the match. He's like ended like 100 matches. Like ever since he's been in the company, he'll walk out in matches. That's his main characteristic, and that's why a lot of people boo him. Well, you would say a bad guy because of that, and you would base it off one negative characteristic. Simply because this concept of total evil doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, and it doesn't exist in the real world. There is no individuals who are totally good or totally evil. Instead, you might have an individual who's good, but for some reason, out of greed, maybe, because he wanted something, he would kill a person, and then he goes to jail for doing that, and our society declares he's a bad guy. Now, while that might not be a fair assessment to make, maybe he has many positive characteristics, maybe his family, maybe some people he loves, maybe his friends, maybe his family loves him, but our society declares he's a bad guy. Well, it would be the same way in wrestling. One negative characteristic: he's cowardly, he cheats to win, he can't win a match without cheating. Again, one of these things, not both, but one. Maybe he hurt someone or he injured someone, and then that guy comes back and attacks him, and that's a good guy because of it, but not totally bad or totally good. Shades of gray. Okay, you're basically having you have characters who can almost be good and bad at the same time. They can be like Triple H did this 2 weeks ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago. he was in a feud with I think it was Paul Heyman. And I mean, he was commenting on Paul Heyman, and he was essentially the good guy in that feud, even though I thought he kind of came off as a dick. But he basically told him that he signed off on a match with him against CM Punk, with him in a tag team match with him and Axel and Handicap, actually. Yeah, it's him and CM Punk. And they asked why. He said, because I've grown to respect your ability to weasel out of situations, and either you'll weasel your way out of this or you'll get your ass kicked. Either way, I'll win. But he came off as almost like a good guy. Now, at the same time as this happened, he's a bad guy. I'm a big heel, one of the top heels in the company against Daniel Bryan, but he still came off as a good guy. That's how I would book television. Shades of gray. No real good, no real evil. And the reason I'm talking about that is to get into what I'm saying. I would get rid of good and evil not only in wrestling but in everything. It's a bygone concept. It comes mainly out of Christianity, and it does not appeal to real life. There are good things and there are evil things, but there is no totally good and totally evil, and it also promotes the ideal. You also have to understand that everyone is self-centered. I'm self-centered. But everyone wants to believe that they're good. But everyone can't be good. Obviously, some people are worse than others. So, do you really want to promote the ideal that there are inherently good people or inherently bad people? Because all people are going to relate to the good guy. So the question is, do you want the bad guys thinking they're good guys? Which also comes out of this. But ultimately, it needs to be gotten rid of simply because it's not real. And we need to live in a society that embraces truth and progression, and a society that is based in logic and reason and common sense. And the old passe ideal of, like He-Man versus Skeletor, Batman versus Joker, I guess, Jesus versus the devil, that's an old ideal. It's not true. It's not manifested in our society. We all have the ability to be good or evil, and I think it needs to largely be gotten rid of out of our society, and that's what I'm saying. So, P666.